Hi, I'm architect Badrinath, founder at Studio Ardete. At Studio Ardete, what we work on is we work on private houses that vary from 4,000 square foot to around, even we're doing projects which are up to 50,000 square foot of independent houses. And other than that, we do commercial projects which could be a restaurant or an office space, something like around 2,000 square foot to even the projects which are up to 1 lakh square foot. So what we bring as an expertise is that we have very closed knit of professionals, and I myself have worked in France, Italy and Japan, and with that experience and being from IIT, so we understand at Ardete how design can be a powerful tool which could even be for something you can create a space which you would want to live in like rest of your life, and even like a commercial space you can use it for as a tool of expression. Probably it's like your entire space could be your catalog, the entire space could be something so powerful in your audience want to be in that space. So we have created it for different industries, right from kitchen industry to sanitary to building industry to pharma offices. Like we're doing a home for the famous singer Badshah, where we're doing it in Chandigarh. So we have a very diverse set of clientele whom we work with. We have been, in the last 12 years, we have delivered over 700 projects, and we have done it over in 39 cities. And where we did projects as far as Bengaluru, we did projects in Lucknow, Rajasthan, New Delhi. So it is more about, and when we work across different these things, so there's a very deep process how we actually follow. That is why where we could deliver consistently and to even to projects which are far off. So our approach to residence projects, unlike many designers, is that we understand the family first, we understand the requirements, we understand the site conditions, the local governing body norms and everything. So we map out all the possibilities together, and once we have all the possibilities, the biggest thing comes is nowadays the biggest challenge what most homeowners face is that they have most of the houses made today, they are like replicas or copies or something that it forms a certain style or a genre and it falls into it. But many a times the challenge is that people or you don't actually relate to it. So that is our biggest challenge we are facing in an age where Pinterest, YouTube, everything is dominated by your everyday experiences. You want to have certain things, but as a family, you don't get connected to it. So that is the very biggest disconnect which we try to resolve here, wherein that we create spaces where we understand you as a family. We understand, for example, if it is a doctor, would have a very different kind of lifestyle compared to, let us say, who's a politician, and very different kind of social needs, very different kind of personal needs. And even when we make celebrity homes, like how we are working for Badshah, so there is there's a place in the house where he would want to socialize. There's a place for the house where there are areas where they're family areas, and both of them needs to be dealt very differently. And those things, they only happen when we have a lot of collaborative discussions, understand your preferences and then we overall, when we all have of all of them together, then we get into the process of design. So in terms of right from space planning, in terms of how the spaces look, both in terms of how it works on the functional level and where it works on an experiential level, how does they look at. And then once you have those things in place, that's when you take up to the next stage, which is called as a definitive stage of design. In definitive stage of design, where we see these ideas to come to real life, where we talk about the detailed drawings of it and how you can actually get the local bylaws in place and create a complete set of documents for the contractor to start the work. So there are different kind of checkpoints, different kind of checklist, and when we make the project ready for the next stage in terms of if it is that an architectural stage, so we talk about services and how the services could be incorporated into it and what kind of different possibilities we have, because nowadays modern homes have heavy on technology. Let us say in terms of how your automation works inside your house, in terms of the Wi-Fi requirements, in terms of the intrusion alarms, even in terms of the multi-room audio system. So there are so many technology things that get into the house, right, from access controls, and those kind of things have to be like, we prepare, plan, and we create a customized chart laid out for you. And once we have those things laid out, and based on it, when we have our consultants, and when we also like when we work about the different aspects of services, let us say about the plumbing design, about the electrical design, so we have collaborative consultants whom we work them, who have been experts in the field for the last 15 to 20 years. They bring in a lot of value to the table in terms of how we can create architecture, how we can integrate all the services, modern services, in a very explicit and a detailed way. So that is the process. From there we take that journey to the interiors and then to the finishing. So it's an entire process where we take you step by step into the process and the entire journey of it. Because the biggest challenge in terms of architecture and design is probably the process itself is like, if not done rightly, it could be a very stressful process. As in that, many a times clients end up knowing that, okay, we don't know what we are supposed to do in the next step. Are we doing the right things? Are we doing the wrong things? And mostly people haven't built, like those who are building their home or something, like, it's not that they are building it. It's not something like shopping that you do every day. It happens over a period of time. Even if it happens after 10 years or 20 years to something like after 40 years in your family, there are very different technological things that have update it. Then as an industry, they make changes every time. So that's when we need to make you aware for the first thing. And once we make you aware, then we make you exposed to all the experience, what are the possibilities that are there. And the biggest thing is that, how do we bring in everything into reality with the kind of like the budgets you have set aside. Because many a times what happens is that there is a certain way where the spending happens in a project, and that is not it could be very counterintuitive to what we understand as how the spending should happen. So that is when certain clients actually, when they are halfway through, they realize that, okay, they're just left with only 20% or the 30% funds that were needed to complete the project. So we don't want you to land in such situations. So for that, what we do is we actually have an entire phase-wise budget allocation system, wherein as a client, you can always see how much you have spent on your budget, where you are standing, what are the next steps you can take in, so that we can take right necessary steps at the right stage, so that we see that the entire project finishes out in a reasonable amount of time, and also in the time where in the budget that you have set into, in terms of like where you want to take the project to. So it has very different layers and different levels of engagement, and there are continuous meetings, checkings, physical checkings of samples, because the way we work, we are very involved into the process. Like even there is a large amount of work, what we call as, like, when you talk about interior curation. So what exactly is interior curation is, like, if typically in a room, you actually have objects that come from probably 15 to 20 places. Probably the bed is from some place, some things are manufactured at site, curtains come from some other source, the carpets come from some other source. There's so many objects that come from different sources, and all of them are procured at different stages of the project, but they need to have a common connect to it, and like as simple, and the services has to be planned accordingly. For example, if there is a wall, and the kind of lighting that we decide, lighting actually happens at a much early stage, but the connection is that if a wall has to be lit in a way that, for example, it also matters what is on the wall. If there is a painting on the wall, if there is a console on the wall, and if there is a mirror on the wall, all three conditions actually define different lighting conditions, which has to be pre-planned from the beginning. So those kind of understanding and connect changes the project completely. So you need to be constantly in engagement with the project to create something which is extraordinary. Because when we have standard approaches, like kind of a thing, okay, this is what I've decided, this is what I have fixed into it, and that's how you need to progress along it. But that doesn't add constant value to the project. It doesn't have incremental value, because in the end we are looking at an extraordinary and exceptional output which you would want to live for, probably like live or to work or whatever kind of space for probably like rest of your life. So to create that kind of product, it needs a very different level of engagement. That's what we strive for, and that kind of engagement happens with different level of expertise and different professionals that come into it. Even for example, there is a bigger subject what we call as an like art direction, because when you talk about in a simple house or a space like an office so there are very different set of artworks that have to be engaged into. So artists would come in to create an artwork, but how the artwork is integrated into the space, how is it like connecting to the people who are living into it, how is it connecting, at what height, where are you standing, how are you looking at it, all those things are equally important as the artwork itself. Because for example, a building like Taj Mahal needs to have this kind of vast open space to observe it. Had there not been that kind of open space, then probably it would not have looked as beautiful as what it is today. So at Ardete, the whole process is laid out in such a way that we engage you, we create you awareness, we get you through different stages of the project, and in the end, like we try to create, because normally like we keep adding value at every step of the project. And what it does, the kind of cumulative effect, because from the beginning and to the end, the kind of product that comes out is a completely like phenomenal in terms of the projects. That if you see some of our projects, it's a phenomenal difference from where it started and where it ended, because that is only possible by constantly improving the product. It is not a standard method of it. It needs a lot of passion into it. So we have like all the people that we work here are like highly committed and passionate to actually deliver what client wants, like deliver nothing but the best. So that's what is the kind of like the values where we work at Ardete, to create something that is extraordinary and exceptional. And this is always a constant endeavor for like to seek perfection, and that's what we look up for, what extra can be done, what else can be done. So it's always a constant endeavor. So we are very we see the client feedback also very strong, significant part of our work, because that's what helps us to understand, okay, that are we probably, because like I would always say that, okay, if I'm a chef and get you the best pasta in the world, what if you don't like Italian? Because then all the effort that gets into it. So the client feedback is important in terms of like what kind of cultural background you come from, what kind of like what's your lifestyle. So these are those small little details, but which actually have a profound and a significant impact on the end product. So that's what we build into our system. That's why like each of the project what we do at Ardete is like so special to us, and each of the project is like very unique. And unique, it only happens when we bring in all these layers into the design, and that's what creates what we call as a truly timeless design.